So privacy is a big one, and I'm glad you said that first, because that's actually probably one of my biggest concerns as someone who mostly does security engineering and privacy engineering related to helping people's activities on the web stay anonymous and private if they wish. My biggest fear is actually not the loss of privacy, but the loss of people caring about privacy, because I think as soon as people say, like, we don't care about Snowden or Chelsea Manning or whistleblowers because we don't feel like it has any impact on our lives, then we lose any chance of changing things for the better. So, yeah, I think that's all I had to say.
So, my fundamental concern, I have two of them actually. One is that most people do computing and do not control what is done. Companies control what is done. They control how people's computing is done and set it up to suit them, not to suit those people. That's the injustice of non-free software that the users don't control. Now, if you use non-free software, very likely it has been designed to mistreat you. And one of the forms of mistreatment is snooping on you. So non-free software is related to privacy, but neither of them is a development out of the other. They're two independent concerns. So I am concerned that the software you are running is snooping on you, that online services that you talk to collect data about you, which they shouldn't be allowed to do. But there are other forms of digital snooping. It's not just done on your internet activities. There are cameras attached to face recognition trying to track you on the street in some places, and that's an injustice. We shouldn't allow such systems to exist. And there are cameras, lots of cameras in the US to recognize car license plates, and they feed a database. The data are combined from these different devices to track people's movements. And then there are the portable phones whose movements are all tracked. And not only Big Brother, but anyone at all can tell where your mobile phone has been if you have one. That's why I don't have one. And the effect of this much surveillance is to damage democracy. Ultimately, democracy can't exist if the government knows where everyone goes and who talks with them.
I think the thing that I am most concerned about is sort of safety of communication and safety of browsing the internet. And the thing that I work on most is encryption. I think it's very important that as you surf the web and you look at things online and go to different websites, that is a safe activity where your data can't be intercepted by people in the middle and where it can't be tampered with by third parties. This is what I work on with the Let's Encrypt Certificate Authority. We're trying to increase coverage of HTTPS to 100% of page loads. We've raised it from about 30% to 50% in the last year, and hopefully it can increase. But also in the activism that EFF does with the government. So you may remember a while ago there was this iPhone in San Bernardino that the FBI wanted to be decrypted, and they paid someone a lot of money to decrypt that iPhone. But first, they yelled at Apple and tried to compel Apple to change the software on the iPhone to allow them to decrypt it. And then they are now trying to pass various laws so that in the future, when they ask that, Apple has to comply. And we think that's very scary. It's a really dangerous precedent. So just last week, EFF held its Pioneer Awards, where we give awards to people who we think are sort of leading the way in civil liberties protection in the digital realm. And we gave an award to the authors of a paper that came out in the last year entitled Keys Under Doormats, It's a follow-up paper from the first crypto wars in the 90s, and the authors were people like Matt Blaze or Hal Abelson, and a bunch of people. I think it had over 10 authors. But they talked about how for us to create a system that the FBI and various law enforcement groups want that could be compelled to decrypt your data, we'd have to completely destroy the internet and build it again from the ground up, because there's no way to guarantee that kind of access to law enforcement and maintain a safe web for other people. We do a lot of campaigning around that. We don't want to we don't want people to undermine your privacy, but we also really don't want people to undermine your safety online, and I think that's the thing I'm most concerned about.
So I'm going to look at this from all of those things, absolutely. I'm going to take a financial perspective. It's shocking to me that people are completely unaware that almost every financial transaction they do goes through an intermediary, and all of those intermediaries feed data to every intelligence agency, every government in the world. Financial transactions are the weakest point of the privacy chain right now, and we are marching really fast to a future where money will be digital, entirely digital. Cash is going to be banned. It's already being banned throughout the world. And we're going to end up with a future of digital currency. Now, the question is, what kind will it be? Will it be a digital currency that has people unable to pay other people unless they go person to corporation to person through the control of governments, where they literally have no control over their money and everything they do is tracked? As per the Patriot Act, they don't even need to present a warrant to get that information, and most people are blithely unaware of it. Or are we going to have a future where financial privacy is guaranteed, and in fact can be a foundation on which you can have interactions within a community without those being surveilled, to create social connections, because that's what money does. It's a form of language, it is speech, and without privacy, without anonymity, you don't have freedom of expression, we don't have freedom of association. Money is a very powerful tool, and it is a powerful tool for evil if it's controlled by others, and it's a powerful tool for self-expression and association and community if it's controlled by individuals. And so I'm interested in that aspect of privacy.
Brett, what should we do?
What should we do? I don't know.
Guide us. It sounded like you had a follow-up to this.
Okay. Now we have some initial dystopian scenarios. Maybe let's turn it back to the audience and think about, like, what are you guys most concerned about, and what have you seen that you think are the most positive attempts to steer the internet in a positive trajectory? Does that sound good? Questions? Comments? Okay, well let's try it anyway. Volunteers.
What's something that we could do, or the average person could do, to try to aid in making a better future for all of this?
Well, you can stop using non-free software, stop carrying around a portable tracking and surveillance device, also known as cell phone, and refuse to use credit cards except when whoever you're paying already insists on knowing who you are. And, okay, should I repeat? Did people not hear me? Stop using non-free software, stop using a portable tracking and surveillance device, stop paying with credit cards, use cash. I use credit cards only when the entity I'm paying already knows who I am and insists on knowing who I am. Otherwise, I pay cash. But if you want to really stop the danger, you've got to organize. You've got to join organizations to campaign for what we really need in order to protect privacy, which is ban systems that collect data about people. Now, I don't know any organization that dares to advocate this, but this is what we must insist on. It's useless to fight for anything less than this, because anything less will not stop the total surveillance that enables the state to find whistleblowers, to find dissidents, and then put them in prison. We have to make, to keep democracy, we have to make our country safe for dissidents and safe for journalist sources. And that means we lower the level of surveillance, the collection of data about people, to the point where Big Brother can't tell who goes where and can't tell who talks with whom. Mere limits on access to the collected data are ineffective. It's a distraction to campaign for those. It's distracting fine organizations from campaigning for something that would really solve the problem. Whereas if we did get together and start demanding what solves the problem, in some years we might actually get it. No, I don't. I've never carried a portable tracking and surveillance device. It's Stalin's dream. Whenever it's on, and some of them have been modified so they don't really go off ever, it's sending out signals from time to time, and the cell towers figure out where it is by triangulating, and they record that. Not only that, but they can be remotely converted into full-time listening devices that listen to the conversation around you all the time without ceasing. Even when you think they're off, because once they're modified, they don't really turn off. They just pretend to turn off. There's no way, as far as I know, to prevent that. Jailbreaking applies to a portable phone has two computers typically. One is the modem that talks over the radio to the phone network, and the other is the application processor, which runs an operating system. Well, you can run a free operating system in the application processor in some models. Just jailbreaking doesn't help you. All the portable phone operating systems are designed to mistreat people, and they're proprietary software, except one, Replicant, which runs on only a few models. But the point is, so you should switch to Replicant if you don't want the application processor to mistreat you. But there's also the modem processor, and that only runs proprietary software, and it has a universal backdoor, and that's where they convert the phone into a full-time listening device. And there's nothing we can do about that. The processors are secret. We couldn't write free software for it in any case. And nowadays, they actually check for the manufacturer's signature on the program. So even if we had free software, we couldn't run it. And those are malicious. There's no fix except maybe someday to build another modem chip.
Could I maybe just one thing to sort of analyze this problem around surveillance? I'd like to know what you guys think about. Is the main issue with surveillance the fact that you can find people who have dissident opinions? All right, which what often people think about this with surveillance. It's like, I can be seen, I might be captured, or I might be sort of surveilled by some kind of authoritarian state. Or is the real issue here that when people feel like they're watched, their creativity essentially plummets? It's like when you're trying to dance in your kitchen and your windows are open and you're naked. Are you more likely to do that? Well, Andreas, you got something on this? So the question of, is the real issue here psychological? Or is it like a... Yeah.
So that question is not theoretical. We have evidence. A study was done on what we can call the chilling effect on speech of knowing that surveillance occurs. And this study looked at a number of different elements, including web searches for specific types of words. Web searches for words like jihad, bomb, etc., as well as library searches, catalog searches for specific types of books, and online purchases of specific types of books. And what it showed is that not the surveillance itself, but the awareness of surveillance, immediately after Snowden offered his revelations, fundamentally changed the browsing habits of free Americans who started self-censoring, who started not searching for things that they thought might make them look suspicious. There are plenty of reasons why you might want to search to learn about things without being in any way suspicious, but people stopped reading books, they stopped searching library catalogs, they stopped searching the web, and they stopped visiting websites for specific keywords that they felt would make them a target. And that is far, far more dangerous. Because if you internalize that, especially if it's persistent over a long time, it will get passed on to the next generation. Public debate deteriorates, the range of opinion is reduced, people become subservient, they learn to stand in line, put their liquids in the bin, take off their shoes, bend over, and that conditioning is pernicious. It's far worse than the actual surveillance, if you're not a dissident.
We all need the dissidents and the whistleblowers. So I don't agree with what you just said. I can't say which one's worse. They're both horrible. You see, even if you're not a whistleblower because you don't have any secrets to reveal, the fact that whistleblowers are imprisoned threatens you as it threatens everyone. You see, democracy is that the people control the state. But in order to control the state, we need to know what the state is doing. And the only way to find out is with the help of those heroes we call whistleblowers. So if whistleblowers are likely to be imprisoned, and therefore people don't dare to blow the whistle, we all suffer. And by the way, I would like, since Snowden has been mentioned, there's something that needs to be said. 3 cheers for Edward Snowden. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
So I agree with you, Richard, but I just want to add a little twist. If we continue down this road and you create this environment of fear and self-censorship, eventually they don't have to imprison Snowden. Society itself turns around, condemns him for speaking truth, and publicly, physically attacks him in every way. Eventually, society polices itself. The Stasi didn't need to have a snitch in every office, because everybody, although they did, because everybody was so terrified that everybody became a snitch, and the system self-policed, right? And so it does matter what happens with chilling effects.
I think a term that's sometimes used for this is the Panopticon, which is the sense of when you internalize the policing yourself, such that even if you don't know whether somebody's watching you or not, so you just assume that it's happening. And you probably experienced this. Sometimes your most creative moments, at least for me personally, are when I don't sense somebody's judging me or passing some kind of has their eyes on me. And as soon as their eyes are on me, suddenly your sense of ability and freedom kind of goes down. And we might argue that actually some of the most creative things in this world have been when people are essentially in the dark economy, as it were, or in this kind of unmonitored space. And this, I want to now switch to Brave browser, because I want to know what you guys are doing. If I download this browser, what happens? What does it do? How is it different to Chrome, etc., etc.? And what are you doing with it?
That was a very sharp transition from a very broad topic to a very specific topic, but I'll try to keep this like generally interesting. So the problem that I think is biggest on the web specifically right now is that most sites are funded by advertising.